Good morning. This is a VirtualPBX admin training. Going to give people another minute or so to show up. Looks like my audio is transmitting properly. So there we go. If you're a vConsole customer, we are no longer doing the live trainings for vConsole. If you want to review that, you can go to virtualpbx.com, mouse over support, and select vConsole support. Scroll down about a third of the way down, and you will see the recorded training there, as well as the various feature guides for vConsole. Likewise, for Dash customers, if you're not able to watch this full training under Dash support, you can scroll down. You'll see the various training videos there, and further down, you'll see the specific guides for different features under Dash. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So you should be seeing the Dash login page, which is this dash.virtualpbx.com. It's going to ask for your username, which is going to be an email address. Each user will have a unique email address for login purposes, password, which should have been emailed to you, and then the account name, which is typically your company name. Now, if for some reason you didn't get that password email, you can click on the Forgot Your Info link. It'll flip it around. It's going to still ask you for that username, and then you need either the account name or the phone number, and then you can hit reset password. You'll get an email with a link. You go into that link, you reset the password. The system will then log you back out and basically make you log in with that new password. So that's something to be aware of. But once you have that password set, I tell most people just click on Remember Me, so you don't have to remember yet another password in your life. Let's go ahead and get signed in here. Now, I'm using a test account, so it's slightly different than what you will see, and I'll try to highlight those differences. Now, the very first time you log in, Dash actually opens you up onto this screen here, which is your user profile. The Dash wizard will pop up telling you, highlighting different features of what you can do. As a system admin, it's actually probably more important if you click on this account section here. And the main thing people tend to change is the time zone for the entire account, right? So make sure you're in the appropriate time zone. On a live account, you actually have another section down here for your billing information. So that's where you would update like your credit card information, for example. When you're done in these sections, just go ahead and click on the close box here to the top right. And now we're on our dashboard. So along the top, you can always click on your name, get back to that account profile. Over here, you've got the little question mark icon, and you've got a couple sub options. So first is the chat with us. This will open up a chat window, and you can speak to our support team via chat to get some help with whatever you're working on. Down here, we've got the Learn More. This is going to take you to the support pages, and then you can find the feature guide that you're looking for. Then we've got the online store, right? store.virtualpbx.com. This is where you can order a web phone, for example, or a headset or a router, sort of thing. And then the web phone. Now, the web phone will only show up once you have a web phone on your user. For migrated customers, or those of you who moved from vConsole to Dash, you will automatically have web phones. At least for the last few weeks, customers that have moved been having them set up automatically. But on Dash, any user you can add a web phone to. They're free. There's no additional costs associated with the web phone. But this just opens up the web phone page, which is this webphone.virtualpbx.net. You just need to use Chrome or Firefox on a desktop or laptop computer and it allows you to make and receive calls right there from the browser. All right, we got the three horizontal line icon here, or the menu icon. This gets you to other features on Dash. Some of these features are paid features, and I'll try to highlight those as we go through. And then lastly, we got the log out icon here. Now on the left, these are the major sections of Dash we're going to be going through all of them in some detail. And then here in the middle, here's our dashboard. This is the snapshot of your system. So total users, all the people on your account, basically making and receiving calls. Keep in mind that depending on your plan, adding users may increase your bill, right? There's some plans that don't have that, but then they usually have minute caps on those plans. So it's going to vary. Next up, we got your total devices. Cell phone, pretty self-explanatory. The web phone, which I just alluded to. Soft phone, right? Software application, usually on a computer, but these days can be on laptops, tablets, or cell phones. Basically, it's using your internet connection to make and receive calls through this software. All right, next up, we've got the SIP phone, right? So this is a VoIP phone, the physical device that sits on your desk, most likely, or at least someplace in your facility, and people have a handset to make and receive calls from. And then landline, pretty self-explanatory. The unregistered devices, right, this little section here, I have 17. This is typically for the VoIP devices, right? So the SIP phone, soft phone, web phone. And the system is saying, hey, 17 of your devices are not connected, meaning we can't send calls to them, nor can we receive calls from them. This can be anything that from they're simply not on to someone having, like, their ISP went down or the dog gets ripped out the Ethernet cable from their VoIP phone. Yes, anything like that. All right, total numbers, these are the, oops, did not mean to click like that. Go back. All right, total numbers, these are the phone numbers on your account that your customers dial to get to you and your staff, right? Now, your plan will determine how many phone numbers are included as part of your plan price. On Dash, that's anywhere from 1 to 15 numbers typically are included as part of your monthly plan price. Once you go over that allotment, it can be up to $4.99 per month per phone number. So that's something to keep aware of. So if you're not using numbers, an easy way to save money on your bills to remove those. Now down here, we've got the breakdown of the numbers. So we have assigned numbers and spare numbers. Assigned number means it's going someplace, right? It's a main company number. It's going to your salesperson, Bob. It's going to your billing, ring group, or your sales ACDQ, whatever. But in some fashion, someone dials that number, they're going to get to your system and either be able to speak to someone or leave a voicemail, right? Spare number, still on your account, still counts towards your allotment of phone numbers. It's just not ringing anywhere, right? So it's a number you use for a particular advertising campaign. That campaign's over. You're like, okay, we don't need to get calls on this number anymore. Move it to spare. Or you got a block of sequential numbers. You're like, we're going to keep these because we like the sequence. And once we feel we need more numbers, we can then make use of them. That sort of thing. Then down below that, we've got the breakdown between, in this case, US DID and US toll-free. Right? Toll-free, pretty easy, 800 number, or 877, all the way down to 833 these days. US DID, that's just a local US phone number, right? So a number in, say, San Jose, California versus a number in Minneapolis, right? And anything else you can think of. You can have international phone numbers on your Dash account if you are interested in that. You are going to want to email porting porting, so PORTING at virtualpbx.com. Our porting team will need to know the city and country that you're interested in having a phone number in. They will then let you know if that's available or if they have other additional requirements. Right? Some countries, like Germany, for example, they require proof of presence within that city. That's usually like a utility bill. Other countries just don't care. They say, all right, here, I have a phone number. Others, they want like all sorts of documentation. It just varies from country to country. All right, down here we've got conference bridges. This basically is telling you you have enabled the ability to host a conference on 6 of your users, right? You can have more if you want. Now, you're not able to enable that feature until you have a main conference number. which we'll be getting to in just a little bit. In fact, over here on the right, we've got your main numbers. So these, in this case, 4 numbers, all route the same way, right? They're all going to have the same main greeting. Down here, we've got the conference number. You can have multiple conference numbers, but this is what everybody will dial to get to the conferences. Then they'll need to enter in the conference room number, right? So the person hosting it has a conference room number, and then they'll enter a PIN number to enter either as a participant or the moderator. Right, we got the fax box number. Right, you can have one fax box number. This enables faxing on the system, and that fax box number is specifically to receive faxes. Right, so that's where all the faxes come into. Oops. I'm being a little click happy today. Right. The company directory, this, when you download this, it's just a text file. It shows all your users and their extension number or extension numbers. They have multiple. The soft phone directory, this is for use with the VirtualPBX desktop soft phone app. So you download this file, and then you then upload it back into your desktop soft phone. What it shows is basically all your other staff members or users on your account who have the VirtualPBX soft phone. They'll show up as a contact within your soft phone app. And when you look at it, you can see like if they're green, meaning, hey, they're not on a call, at least on that soft phone, or red, that they're on a call, right? So a way to see presence if everyone's using the desktop soft phone app. All right, over here we got the store discount code. So just for being a Dash customer, you get a discount in our online store. Save a little money on getting a VoIP phone, for example, or the desktop soft phone app. And then lastly, we've got the account realm. You use this for a couple things. First would be for programming a third-party device or application. You wanted to use a cell phone from another company. You would use the realm as part of that provisioning process. The other thing it's used for is for faxing out. So on Dash, to send a fax out, it's actually email to fax. Right? So you create an email. It has to come from the same email address that you log in with. In the 2 fields of that email, you put the plus sign, the number 1, the area code and phone number, @ symbol, and then your account realm. And then you simply attach a PDF or TIFF file and send it off. A couple things to keep in mind when you are faxing out from Dash. In that email, there's no point in typing in the body of that email because the system only takes the attachment. It doesn't take anything else that comes with that email. You only can fax out 1 attachment per email. So like if you actually attached, say, 3 PDFs, 1 of them will go out. But as far as I've been able to tell, it's random which one it chooses. So 1 email, 1 attachment per email. Also, if your email client attaches the signature file, you're going to want to remove that because that can throw off the system sending the fax out. All right, up here, we've got caller ID. Now, unfortunately, my streaming software doesn't show all the pull downs consistently, but you can choose any of your main numbers here. And then we've got the company caller ID name or CNAME. You can enter up to 15 characters, including spaces or special characters. And once you click Save Changes, this gets transmitted to the other carriers who support CNAME. This can take up to 3 business days for those carriers to all update. So usually it's a little faster, but usually up to 3 is the safe margin. A couple things to keep in mind about the CNAME. Your outbound calls can route to a carrier that doesn't support CNAME. Right? There are carriers out there who just don't choose to support it. If that happens, your CNAME information does not get to your destination. There's not a lot we can do to control that because we can't make other people do things. I mean, your average call can go through literally a dozen carriers, potentially. Even for the carriers who do support CNAME, it's not a high priority, right? Their first priority, connect call. right? Second priority, oh, here's your caller ID information. And then in a distant third, the CNAME information. Now, if any of carriers having higher than expected call volume, right, that they're going to drop the CNAME because they want the call to go through. Obviously, if they're having an outage or a maintenance issue, that could also, you just want to go, again, they're going to want the call to go through first, but that may not even go through. Down below, we've got the company emergency address for emergency information, or E911. This would be basically your company headquarters address. And again, it's the default when someone with a VoIP phone picks up their phone, dials 911, that's the address that gets sent to emergency services. Now you can change that by phone number, obviously. So any changes, you click on Save Changes, and you're good to go. All right, next up, we've got hold music. Now, on Dash, hold music is defined as once a call has come in and reached a user, and then that user presses hold on the VoIP phone. So this is the default file that will play for all your users. Now, you can upload your own by clicking Upload here, finding the file, and then clicking on this blue and white upload icon. Dash will accept, actually, you can upload technically any type of file I've seen, but it will only play back a .wav, .wav, or a .mp3. You want to keep the file size under 1 megabyte, and for best results, you want to make sure that file is recorded in mono, not in stereo. By default, most of the time when you record on your computer, for example, it's going to record in stereo. Stereo files can work. I've had some customers, though, when they upload a stereo file, when they go back in to listen to it, they don't hear anything, or they hear a lot of static. Right? If I get the file from them, if I put it in the mono, then it plays fine. And the main reason for that is when you listen over the phone, you have the one speaker, typically speaking, like if you're calling from a landline, especially. But then again, any changes, save changes. Now, the hours is actually part of main number. So let's go ahead and just click on main number. And we'll start up here at the top, main company number. So again, this shows all my main numbers. If I choose I don't want to have one of these numbers be used, I can then click unassign next to it. Now, that number is not removed from my account, right? And it just got moved into a spare number status. So I can use it someplace else if I want to. If I want to add a number, right, I can add from spare. So I got that 650 number I just removed or unassigned, and I also have a 408 number here. So I can assign either one of those as a main number. I can also buy a number. Now, when the system says buy a number, it just simply means add a number. So for instance, if you signed up and your plan says, you includes 15 numbers, and you only selected one number to start, if you buy another number, right, it's only your second number, you're not going to be charged for it because you're still under your allotment. So that's something to keep in mind. But you've got option here, local or toll-free. So toll-free, pretty easy. Right, you pick your toll-free prefix, you click search, it shows you what's available. Right, if you click add, it adds it to your cart here. It shows you the number, the option to delete it. And you can scroll down and see the other numbers. And I could cancel out. Local number, similar process, you just have to choose the area code you're looking for. So let us check, see if there's anything in 323. And there you go. You see what's available. You can scroll down. The list will propagate some more. Again, same process. You would click add, and then you'll click by number to add it to your account. And in this case, since I'm in the main numbers, it would add it directly to the main numbers. And that will hold true for any place where you can add a number. So if you want to add a number for your salesperson, Bob, when we get to the user portion, you can add a number directly to him, and it will ring to his user, right? Same for your groups, etc. All right. Next up, we got the office hour strategy. So if you just signed up, you're set to 24-hour open office. If you were migrated, the upgrade team will map whatever day-night mode settings you had on V console and match it on under custom office hours. Now, we'll say you're a new sign-up. You said, well, I don't want to be open 24 hours. You would click on custom office hours. For each day of the week that you're open, you put a check mark, and then you go to the boxes here to the right to input your open hours. This is in 24-hour military time. So in this case, I'm open from 9 to 5. Down here at the bottom, you have a little checkbox here if you're closed for lunch. So if your whole facility goes to lunch at the same time, you can put a check mark there. You can enter in your lunch hours, again, in 24-hour military time. And when that time comes, the system will automatically put you in lunch mode. All right, office holidays. First, if you're closed for holidays, put a check mark here. And then over here to the right, you have your option to add holidays. You've got single day, date range, and advanced. If you click on any one of those, it creates a new row. And then you simply name the holiday. And then you put the month and the date. All right, for date range, similar idea, like we have up here for Christmas. Right, you just choose a start date and an end date. Now the caveat here is for New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. You notice here that there's no year indicator. So the system doesn't handle date range with New Year's Eve and New Year's Day included. It just treats you as if you're closed all year. So you'd want to do single day for each of those 2 days. And then advanced is like this retreat here where I'm just saying, hey, the first Friday in July, we're on holiday, right? So every year, that's the company picnic day. And again, you would click on Save Changes for any changes you make. All right, incoming call handling. So this is how the system is handling calls to those main numbers. And right off the bat here, I'm on open hours. Right now, you notice I've got after hours options, and I also have holiday options. But they all have the same basic options. So first one here, call comes in, and it's going to the virtual receptionist. That is a link. There we go. On your left, you've got your main menu, right? This is what people dial on their phones to navigate through your system. And then on your right, you've got your main menu, or your main greeting. So what plays when people enter or call that number. So for dealing with your main menu, you would click on Add Route. You basically have 0 through 9 plus the default route. Again, this pull down is not going to work. And then you would choose where it goes. And if I go up here, for example, you've got these various options. Excuse me. All right, so there are a lot to choose from on this account. So one, you've got the smart directory, or the people, basically search to find the person you want to speak to. You've got specific users. If you scroll down here, you've got call queues. All right, so these are ACD queues. ACD queues do have a charge associated with them. You've got devices, so you can send it to a specific cell phone or VoIP phone, for example. You can also have it go directly to a media file, which basically means you're playing a greeting. The downside of that is once the greeting ends, the call terminates. And you can send it to groups, which is like the basic version of a queue. Oh, on this account, I actually have an option here to send it to another auto attendant. So you can have multiple auto attendants on our dash stance now. And in this case, when you have it here, that means that it's actually a submenu, right? So I can say, hey, press option 4, and then it will play another greeting with another set of options. And you can keep going down as far as you want or move them back and forth. And then you also have the option here for voicemail boxes. All right, and you got a little icon to let you know what it's going to. Now over here on greeting types, you've got text-to-speech, right? So you type in a greeting, you click update to computerized or robotic voice. I usually recommend that for people who have never used a PBX system before or not that experienced using the PBX systems, right? Not most of us, until I started working here, I had very little experience with it. So basically it's, hey, I'm just starting a new company and I want a professional phone system and I don't know exactly how I'm going to do things. Use the text-to-speech as you get used to things and you're like, oh, this is how I really want it to work. All right, upload your own file. Again, you can upload a .wav or .mp3. You want to record it in mono. You want it under 1 megabyte. If you already have files uploaded or recorded or text-to-speech, you can choose from something that already exists on the system. You can record it over the phone. So by default, the system wants this to be from a VoIP phone on the account. The PIN number you see here is specific to this time of day, right? So I'm currently in open hours. This is the PIN number for open hours, and that PIN number will only work during open hours, right? So if I want to change my open hours greeting, I have to call in when the system is in open hours and use that PIN number. The same would apply for lunch hours, after hours, and holidays. Now, by default, the system wants you to use a VoIP phone. However, scroll down here, right down here, allow recording, outside recording. If you turn this on, which is it is right now, that means you can use your cell phone or landline. We typically recommend leaving that off until such time you actually want to record a new greeting, because someone could try to figure out your PIN number and record a greeting that you don't want. So one thing to keep in mind about recording over the phone. If you've just signed up, you have no greeting in place, it'll walk you right through it when you first call in. If you have a greeting in place, so you have a greeting A is the file that plays, like when you call in right now, you can still enter that PIN number in, and the system will then, walk you through recording a new greeting. What happens in that instance is the file name stays the same, right? So greeting A, still there. The content of greeting A is whatever you just record, right? So you're overwriting the existing content with new content. That's something to keep in mind in case you change your greetings a lot. All right. Professional recording services, when you click the order button there, it's going to take you to a new website with our partner, Snap Recordings. They have between 80 and 100 voice actors to choose from, both men and women's voices. They have various versions of English, like UK English, Australian English, as well as US English. I believe they still have different versions of Spanish and French, so you can do multilingual greetings. They have what they refer to as hold treatment, so you can do a mix of audio, like a music file, and then the script play. They handle their own billing, typically credit cards. They deliver via email, and then you would just simply upload your own file. All right, now down here, settings, number of retries on missed dial. Basically, how many times can someone make a mistake when they're trying to hit your main menu items? So, for instance, someone keeps trying to hit 7. After that third attempt, the system would then either send them to the default route or would end the call if there's no default route. And then dialing timeout. How much time after they enter a digit in does the system wait before it moves them on to that extension or that menu option? 10 is probably a little bit long. Probably 2 to 3 is going to be, or anywhere up to 5 is probably going to be enough for most people. And then I already talked about the allow outside recordings. Now, we don't typically recommend making use of the default route these days, and that's just because of the number of robo-dialers that happen. Probably a little less now in the US, now that the elections are pretty much over. But basically what can happen is with the default route in place, right, RoboDialer can call your main number. It'll listen to your greeting, it'll have failed attempts because it's not entering anything, and then eventually it would go to that default route. And then either you're hearing the weird music or some kind of joke or like wind noise, what have you, or you get a voicemail with that. And so in that case, I typically recommend just removing the default route so you don't have to worry about it. And what that does is basically for your actual customers, right, they're people, when they call in, they'll hit a menu option or they'll hit an extension to get to someone to speak to. RoboDialers can't do that, so they just get basically stuck at the front door, so to speak. Now, if you make any changes on either main menu greetings or these settings, you click Save here, and then you click Save Changes here. And now all your changes got saved, you're good to go. All right, next option here is slightly different. And just a minute here. All right. So in this case, it's call comes in, I'm offering it to Bob. If Bob's not able to answer, it goes to the virtual receptionist, right? This virtual receptionist is the same one we were just looking at, just so you know, because we're still under open hours. Now, up here, again, you've got the options of sending it to a ring group, sending it to a queue. You can send it to any user. You can send it to a specific device. You can have a media file play. It might be a little weird. This option to have a media file play and then go to your virtual receptionist for a second media file to play, just something to keep in mind. But the main goal here is that you are giving a staff member or multiple staff members, in the case of groups and queues, a chance to answer the call first. If they're not able to, then the inbound caller gets to the virtual receptionist where they can at least enter a menu option or an extension and have a chance to try to speak to someone else. All right, this option number here is call comes in, again, offering it to person, group, queue, media file, specific device. If they're not able to pick up, I'm sending it to a voicemail. This also has a additional option way down here at the very bottom, which is right here. It's go straight to voicemail. So, for instance, your office is going to be closed for that week between Christmas and New Year's. You can just say, hey, boom, we're just sending you to voicemail. And you can say, hey, we're closed for the holidays. Please leave a message. We'll call you on our next business day. All right, just save some time for that inbound call. All right. So your after hours or any of these other tabs, so after hours, holidays, lunch, the virtual receptionist is different. And by different, I mean you have the same options, but you can set them up differently. So it's customized for that time of day. Right, so like during your after hours, you have, we have the after hours crew. Well, I can send it to the after hours ring groups or the after hours personnel option, instead of always just going to the same people. But beyond that, it's the same options all the way around. All right. The main conference number, again, you can have multiple numbers. You can add from spare or by numbers directly here to add to your conferencing. The custom greeting is actually a text-to-speech greeting. You just type in what you want it to say. Essentially, though, once a customer or caller enters in the conference number, the system will then prompt them to enter in the conference room number and then the PIN number. And then you do have to have a conference number assigned before you can enable conferences on the users. All right, so the main fax box number, you can have just the one fax box number, and you can edit the fax box. Now, on your account, it'll show up properly. On mine, here, it's not. Basically, what happens is it'll pop up a window. You've got two fields. The first field is to enter in an email address for the person or email address that will receive the faxes and the notifications of an inbound fax. On a successful fax, you'll get an attachment in a PDF, so you can then open it, take a look at it. If someone happens to call your fax number and they're not expecting it to be a fax, right? So they hear the fax tones and they hang up, you will still get an email letting you know you had a failed incoming fax attempt. Not a lot we can do about it if someone enters the wrong number. The second field on that box that opens up is if you own your own email domain, right? It's basically for outbound fax permissions. So if you own the domain abccleaners.com and all your staff have email addresses that end with abccleaners.com, you can simply add your domain to that second field, the fax box. And anyone at your company who has that email address format, they can send a fax out. They don't have to be a user on your Dash account, right? So, you have an intern for the holidays and you want them to be able to send faxes out. You're like, well, here's how you send a fax out, right? Plus, create an email, +1, area code, phone number, @ your account realm, attach a PDF. You don't need to add that intern as a user on the account. I lost my mouse. There we go. All right, auto attendance. So this is one of our newer features. You can now have the possibility of having multiple auto attendants. And with that, you can also have sub-menuing, which I mentioned previously. So create a new attendant. You click up here, add attendant. You give it a name and extension number. The extension number actually allows your staff members to send callers to these other attendants, right? So if you have multiple businesses and the customer called the wrong number, right? So they got to your dog walking business versus your cleaning business. The people at your dog walking service can say, oh, well, let me transfer you over to them. And they would then get to the main menu. So once you've added them, if you click on a name, right, you can change the name. You have this option here of right now it's unavailable in main menu. If I click on this and then click Save Changes, now it's a menu. It can be a menu option on any of the auto attendants, whether that's on the main number virtual receptionist or any of these other auto attendants. And then you would save changes. Phone numbers, right? So you can add phone numbers either from spare or by numbers. This would be important because one of the primary use cases of this is if you have multiple businesses, but just on the same account. So that way each business has their own phone number. And if you click on the little gear icon here, or wrench icon, excuse me, you see that we have, in my open hours, I have a virtual receptionist here. I click on it, and I can send it to whoever I want, right? Same type of options here. I can have a different greeting file here, right? I have this style, etc. So this could be one company, this could be a second company, this could be a third company, and the main number could be yet a fourth company or business. And so if we go back to here, you also have time of day, right? So this is going to match your open hours and after hours, et cetera, of that you set under main number. But you can also scroll down a bit here. advanced call flow. So now I can send it back back to itself in this case, right? Vegas base is is the one I'm on, but I can also send it back to that Niner Nation group or attendant. But basically, that's how you would do submenu. Basically, you would create a secondary auto attendant. Having trouble talking today. You set up the options for the secondary attendant, right? Your submenu, and then you assign it as a menu option on the primary. Going on. Right. Devices shows all the devices on the account. You can add devices here as well. So basically, green means it's connected, meaning we can send a call to it. Red means it's not, unregistered. Black means you've disabled. All right. So adding a device, SIP phone, right? This is that physical VoIP phone. You find your manufacturer, say Cisco, for example, and then you find the model phone you're going to use. Then you give it a name, like Bob's phone, and then you enter the MAC address. The MAC address is unique to each phone, usually a sticker on the back. On the phone itself, if you click menu under status, typically you can find the MAC address as well. And in some cases, it'll be on the box the phone came in or even in the manual. And then you would click on create device. Now, as far as Dash is concerned, the only other thing you would need to do is add it to a user. On the phone's web user interface, you would need to log into that and enter in a URL under the auto provisioning section. And that basically tells the phone, hey, go to this website. The phone gets there, the site says, hey, give me your MAC address. Says, oh, I know what you are, what kind of phone you are, and what account you're on. Here's your configuration file. The phone would then reboot, usually a couple times, and then it should show up green on this status page. Now, for the specific steps on the phone web UI, you'd want to go under the support pages, right? So go to VirtualPBX.com, mouse over support, go to Dash support, and then you're looking for auto provisioning phones. That doc will then have the steps and hopefully the right screenshots for you, and then you can enter in the actual URL text. All right, next up, you got cell phone. Cell phone and landline are essentially the same. Right, you give it a name, you put the plus sign, the number 1, and the area code and phone number of that particular cell phone, and then you assign it to a user. And then you would click on create device. Now let's go down to all right, so this is the default for both cell phones and landlines of how they show up. So when Dash sends a call to a cell phone or landline, right, the phone will ring, and then when you pick up, you'll hear, this is a forwarded call, please press 1. So when you press 1, you're telling the system, yes, you're there, and yes, you want to take this call. It then connects the call to you. Now, that may not be exactly what you want, right, because maybe you're actually sending it to an automated answering service. Right? The automated answering service can't press 1 because it's like a robodialer, it just doesn't have fingers. So in that instance, right, you'd click on this, allow use of cell phone's voicemail. So now when we offer the call to this phone number, we hear that pickup tone, we connect the call. Right? There's no need to press 1. Likewise, so that's great if you're using that automated answering service, because then the answering service can handle the call properly. If you actually leave this on an actual cell phone or landline, and say that cell phone's voicemail picks up, we still treat that like a connected call, so the inbound caller can end up on your personal cell phone's voicemail. Some people want that, some people don't want that at all. Just something to keep in mind. The other thing that comes up is the second one here, keep original caller ID. So, say a customer, Mary, is calling your account, and she gets to you and you're ringing on your cell phone. You would see Mary's actual cell phone number show up as the caller ID for the inbound call. Now, on your personal cell phone, you're like, I don't recognize that number. I don't feel like answering it because I've been getting too many weird calls lately. What you can do in that instance, because you don't want to miss business calls, is uncheck this, uncheck keep original caller ID. So now what happens is when customer Mary calls, what shows up on your phone for the caller ID is one of your phone numbers one of your account phone numbers, right? So one of your main numbers, with a number that goes directly to your user, right? But basically, it would come up as a work number. You're like, oh, this is a business call. Let me take it. All right, soft phone. Little warning message here, basically saying, hey, you can be moving around, so your E911 may not be accurate. So keep that in mind. Now, by default, we're set up as a use third-party application. So you would give it a device name. You can click on create device. You probably want to assign it to somebody. And then this is what you would use to program that third-party application or a VoIP phone that didn't show up on the SIP phone list, right? So you would use the SIP username, the SIP password. If you click on the box, it reveals the password, and then the account realm to let you program or provision that application or device. Now, if you want to use the VirtualPBX app, you need to click where it says use third-party application, and it flips it to say use VirtualPBX application. You give it a device name. You want to assign it to somebody, then click on create device. Now, what happens is once it's assigned to a user, that person gets an email saying, here's your login information, and then here are the download links if they're using iOS or Android. If you want to use the desktop version of the app, you do need to order it through the web store because there is a license fee associated with it. And then you would get the download links for Mac OS and Windows. Lastly, there's web phone. Again, same warning message about being in different locations, but you give it a device name, you assign it to somebody, you click on create device. And again, it needs to be assigned to someone because the web phone, to log into it, it uses the same credentials as your Dash login. Oh, and if you need to remove a device, if you click on the wrench icon, you got the delete device here as an option. All right. Greetings. This is the greetings manager. So you can see all the greetings that you have on your account. You've got the name. The source is TTS, or text to speech. Recording means I recorded over the phone. And then upload means you uploaded the file. You can download the file to listen to it, so you can see if it's still relevant. If you click on the little wrench icon here, you can rename the file or delete it. Groups, shorthand for ring groups. So adding a group is you give it a name, you give an extension, and then you click and drag everyone you want to be in that group, right? So like a department. Then you would click on create group. Once you've created the group, you can click on the name here. You can always change the name, and then you have dialing repeats. Basically, number of times that the inbound caller can try to ring through to everybody in that group. Right, then you can click on Save Changes, or if you don't need the group, you would click Delete Group. Now, if you click on the Members box here, now up here is the total amount of time that calls can ring per attempt, right? So if I had dialing repeats 3, then they can come in here 3 different times up to 120 seconds each. And then I have my staff members here, and it's going to ring in this order. Now, these are sliders, so I can do something like this, where I can have everybody be ringing the entire time. Right? Basically, hey, whoever gets it, reacts to the phone ringing first, gets the call. Now, downside of this is if, say, David here gets a call, and the second call comes in, he's going to hear a call waiting beep on his side. The customer won't until one of his other teammates here picks up the call. Now, if I want to have that going in order, but I don't like this order that it's in, right, then I can click on the name here and drag people up or down, and then I can click distribute. Right, say, oh wait, no, that doesn't work. Here, I want that. We'll move that around. I can click distribute again. right? This total time, you can change it, right? You can change it down to 60 seconds or put it up to 500, etc. If you want to add someone else, you would click on Add User. You can check any of your other users here. And obviously, if you want to remove someone, you click on the Remove button there. And then any changes, click on Save Changes. The extension, again, groups can have multiple extensions if you want. Not a big deal, but this is so your staff can transfer calls to that ring group. Groups can also have phone numbers in addition to having an extension number, and they can have multiple if you want. And then we have group features. All right, so first is ring back. This is essentially hold music while they're waiting for a staff member to call. All right, you can upload your own file, .wav, .mp3, recorded in mono. The main thing is you want to make sure this file is as long as your hold time or the ring time, right? So if we go back up here, right, your .wav or mp3 should be at least 120 seconds long because the system doesn't automatically loop it for you. All right, next action. So if you enable this, basically says, hey, no one was able to pick up. What do you want the system to do? In this case, I'm sending it to a voicemail box, but you can send it to another ring group. You can send it to a specific user. I can send it to a queue. I can send it to a specific device. Allow call forward. If you enable this, basically you're saying my users can make use of call forwarding because they're not going to be at their normal phone. All right. Caller ID prepend. So prepend is a VoIP phone feature. It allows you to put either text or numbers in front of the phone number, caller ID information that shows up on your staff members' phones. So this gives them a heads up about what the call is about. So if you have, especially if you have people in multiple groups or queues, it gives them an idea, oh, it's about a billing issue versus an order status issue. That's not showing up here, but you should also have an option for call recording in a group. If you turn that on, it just records all the calls that come into that group. I'll have to check why that wasn't showing up. Numbers shows all the numbers on the account and where they're ringing to. If we go to spare numbers over here, you can buy additional numbers here, and this puts them in the spare list. Now, if you don't want a number any longer, right, because like, oh, my bill's getting too high, if you click on the little box in front of the number, now you have the option to delete. You can delete the number. It says, yes, you successfully deleted the number. It's no longer here. Now it's completely off your account. You're no longer going to be charged for it. All right, port. This means you're moving a number from, say, AT&T to VirtualPBX. You would just basically follow the on-screen steps here. The main thing is that the system will allow you to upload a completed LOA or letter of agency, as well as a recent copy of your bill. Also within that process, you can download a blank LOA, so then you can get it filled out. Now, the LOA, that's going to ask you for your company information, like the account name or the company name, the address, etc. That information has to match what the current carrier, in this case I said AT&T, right? So whatever AT&T has on file for that phone number, that's what has to be on the LOA. And then it does need to be signed. It can be a digital signature, or someone can actually, print it out and sign it. And that signature should be the person who has the authorization with AT&T in this case to release the number. You upload that file and a copy of the bill. That gets sent to our porting team. They process the port request, and they basically contact you via email letting you know, yes, we got the documents, here's what to expect, and as we get updates about the port request, you'd get an email letting you know what's going on. Now, if for some reason the port, like you uploaded you go through the port request and you're not sure that everything got uploaded, or you don't remember seeing that it got submitted, you can still email porting at VirtualPBX at virtualpbx.com, and you can include those documents, the LOA and the copy of the bill. Our porting team can still process the port. Obviously, if they already got it, they'll let you know, hey, we already got it, you're good to go. But if we didn't, then you're like, oh, okay, processing the port. Again, you'll get an email saying, hey, we got your porting documents. Here's what to expect. The main reasons we get rejections is because an address is wrong or the wrong person signed. Those are the two most common reasons that come up. And VirtualPBX doesn't control when the port completes, right? The other carrier, AT&T in this case, they let us know, hey, all the information's right, or it's not. And then they say, if it's all right, then they say, okay, and we're going to release the number to you on this date. And then we just let you know what that's going on. All right. Users. So shows all the users on the account. You can add a user up here. First and last name, email address, again, unique to each person. You create the password, and then you decide the extension number. Now, on this account, I started off with extension 1000, and it's telling me the next available extension is 1029. I can change this to be, 2310 or 5212, whatever. Now, by default, the system will create a new voicemail box for that user, basically tied or intrinsically tied to that user. Then you have this option here, including the company directory, and you can always change that later. You can send emails to an alternate address. Now, this alternate address will supersede the email for login. So, for instance, your support team, they all just use support@abccleaners.com for everybody, right? And they all look at it, whatnot. But for login purposes, they need to have something else. So you put in support1@abccleaners.com. And then you can put in an alternate address so that way they can get their voicemail notification or their password sent to whatever personal address they actually use. And then this one here is probably the most important, send credentials to the user, meaning, hey, send them the password once I click on create user. And obviously, if you need to add multiple people, create user and add another. So little gray person icon, that means they're a standard user. Little blue suit icon means they are an admin, meaning they can do all the things we've been talking about here. If you click on a person's name, you can change their name. If you click on change credentials, I can change the email address or their passwords. You also have this option here where you can send the password reset to a specific user. So like if Bob keeps forgetting the passwords I create for him, I can say, here, send the password reset. You create a password for yourself that you can remember. Voicemail box PIN. So if your staff is using VoIP phones, you actually don't need to set a PIN number for them because they can call in from their VoIP phone and they hit *98. The system automatically logs them into their voicemail box. And then that first time they do that, it will prompt them to create a PIN number as well as their voicemail greeting. For your cell phone and landline users, you do need to create a PIN number for them. Again, you've got the option here for an alternate address as well as a user directory. This is a pull down where you can change a user to an admin or an admin back to a user. This is for the time zone. You can use account default or their specific area. Language, English, French, German, and Russian are the available options. Basically changes everything you see here in that appropriate language. The ringing timeout. So by default, ringing timeout is 20 seconds on a new user. That's plenty of time to send a call to a landline and to most VoIP phones. If your user is primarily using cell phones, you are going to probably want to up it to 45 seconds or more. It simply takes longer for calls to route to a cell phone than it does, say, to a landline, right? So a landline, the telecom company knows exactly where that phone is and where to send the call. Whereas for your cell phone providers, every time you get a call, they have to find you first. And that little delay is what can cause a call on our system to, like if you have it set for 15 seconds or 20 seconds, like it might ring on your cell phone once and then you're like, you heard it ring and we're just reaching for the phone and it stopped, right? Or you might just get just a missed call notification. And it's that extra delay in trying to find you. That is why you would want to set this to 45 seconds or a minute even. All right. Extensions, again, you can have multiple users can have multiple extensions. I think the most relevant use case I found was our head of our sales team. Whenever a sales team member leaves, he takes over their extension, so that way he makes sure any voicemails I have are handled, or any calls that come in are also handled, so that way we're not losing potential business. All right, phone numbers. Again, users can have their own phone numbers. You can buy numbers, local or toll-free, or add from spare. Devices. You can see their devices here. You can add new devices directly to the user instead of on the devices page. You've got the same options as there. The main things is probably, in my mind, a little easier just to add the VirtualPBX soft phone and the web phone directly here on the users page. But that's up to you what you prefer. And then we have user features. All right. So first one, caller ID number. If a user has their own phone number, you can turn this on. So when they make outbound calls, this is the phone number that shows up as their caller ID instead of one of the main numbers. Call forwarding, you have off, on, and failover mode. Failover mode is for VoIP phone users. But basically what you're saying is, hey, I'm not going to be at my normal phone. When calls come into my user, send it to this other device. Again, you put +1 area code and phone number. You click on Save Changes. Now, your staff members can set this up themselves, either through the user portal, which everyone has their own user portal, or if they have VoIP phones, they can actually use a feature code to set up the call forwarding themselves, right? And then failover mode for VoIP phone users, basically what happens if their phone, right, say their Yailing phone sitting on the desk, for whatever reason, loses connection, and a call happens to come in the user at that time, it's going to automatically forward to this device. Now, this device that I'm forwarding to should not be a device on my user already, right? It should be separate from that. Hot desking, another VoIP phone user, if you enable it, you create a hot desk ID. I say usually just use someone's extension number, and then up to you if you want to require a PIN. But basically what this is for is when your staff members are in a shared office environment where they may switch desks from day to day, and thus phones from day to day, right? So today is Tuesday, I walked in, I sat at desk number 7, I pick up the VoIP phone, I hit *11. That tells the system to turn on hot desking. It asks me for the hot desk ID. I enter that. It says, hey, call will be forwarded to this device. So now when anyone's trying to reach me, it's going to ring at the phone that I'm sitting in. End of my day, I pick up the phone, I hit *12. That turns off hot desking. Right? Tomorrow I come in, someone's already sitting at desk 7. I'm like, all right, desk 24, you're the winner today. I sit down, again, same thing. Pick up the phone, hit *11. Hit the hot desk ID. Now calls are coming to me at desk 24. Voicemail, and every user has a voicemail box created. Fax box. So users can have their own individual fax box on top of the main fax box. Now, you can have an option here to select a spare number, buy a new number, or an assigned extension. I usually say use a phone number because I'm old enough that when I think of sending out a fax, I just go to fax machine, enter phone number, hit send fax, right, and then I walk away, I get coffee. If you use an extension number, the person faxing has to call your main number first, and then when they hear their greeting, hit the extension, hit send fax. So that might be difficult for some people to get used to, what have you, versus if you just have a phone number. Conference bridge, again, you have to have a conference number already assigned, but then you can enable it on a particular user. Their conference room number by default is set to match their extension number, and then their PIN number, this is for their participants to join in on. Follow me, this is for users with multiple devices. You can see here that I have it set to go to these devices. I got the total ring time here. And you notice that these devices are all black, meaning they're currently disabled. But again, you've got the option to distribute. You can click and drag them around. etc. Music on hold, you can have custom music on hold for each user if you want. Again, .wave, .mp3, recorded in mono, under 1 megabyte. Customized call recording. So I'm going to put it back to normal state here. So the first time you come into it and you click enable, you're not done. Right? If I click enable and save changes, I'm still not recording any calls. So you have to choose which ones you're going to record. So inbound internal means coworker Bob called me. Right? Inbound external means customer Mary called me. Right? So outbound internal means I called coworker Bob, and outbound external means I called customer Mary. And then you save changes. Now, one of our newer features that we have is we now have texting available. Right now, that is set up for users that have to have their own phone number. Right? You click on the little gear icon here, and you see messaging, and you turn it on. You click on Save Changes. Now, the user has to have the VirtualPBX desktop or soft phone app, either mobile or desktop. And then you have to go under User Features here, and you also need to disable Follow Me. And then you can do texting back and forth between your soft phone, right, the VirtualPBX soft phone app, and whoever's texting you. Now, there are ways to make use of webhooks and APIs to do some other things with the texting feature that I believe we have documentation up for that on developer.virtualpbx.com. And texting itself typically requires a plan, or it's available on specific plans. So something to keep in mind. All right, voicemail boxes. You can create your own voicemail boxes here. Give it a name, voicemail box number, and a PIN number. All your users, hopefully you kept that checkbox to create a voicemail box for them. But any voicemail box, you can click on the little wrench icon next to it. You can change their name, their voicemail box number, and their PIN number. If you go to advanced, now for a voicemail box you manually create, you're probably going to need to get a greeting file in place. So you can upload .wave, .mp3 recorded in mono under 1 megabyte. You can still call into it as long as you have the voicemail box number and the PIN number. Now the temporary field here, this is for when someone goes on vacation, right? So then you can have a vacation file play. And so that will supersede your standard media file. And then when that person comes back, you would then put them back to none. And that way the media file becomes the default. Recipients. So by default, for the user voicemail boxes, right, they're automatically a recipient. So then if you click here, you can add additional recipients. For a manually created voicemail box, you would want to add someone here so that way someone knows a voicemail was left. Voicemail boxes are limited to 100 messages, and then once they get filled up, you get that annoying message, voicemail box is full, try again later. Options. Now, once you have a greeting file and recipients, I would say go ahead and click already set up. And then you've got some options down here. So by default, delete after notification is checked. That means, right, voicemail gets left on a user, for example. They get an email saying, hey, you got a voicemail, and here it is. They can double click on it and they can listen to it. And so you would have that so that way they don't have to worry about checking their voicemail box later and having their voicemail box get full. Now, if you want your staff members to actually log in, or they prefer to log in either over the phone or through the web portal, then you would uncheck this. And you can also uncheck attached messages to email, like if you don't want your people to have the email attachment. Next up, we've got advanced routing. These are also fairly new features. So direct inward system access, this is something especially for our migrated customers from vConsole may want to make use of. This allows you, or allows a cell phone or landline user to call, say, one of your main numbers, and you can enter an extension. So if I click Save Changes here, so now I call into my main number from my cell phone. I enter in this extension number and then this PIN number. I will then get dial tone, and I can make an outbound call. And then the caller ID that shows up on that outbound call is that phone number I dialed into, right? So one of the main company numbers. Now, for new customers, this feature isn't turned on by default, right? There's potential fraud concerns, right? Someone could figure out the extension number and PIN number, and suddenly they're making outbound calls on your account. But if you wanted this on, you would need to send us a request. For our vConsole customers who've migrated to Dash, this is turned on, or it's available, so you can set it up, because you may have been making use of that similar feature on Dash. Likewise, for our migrated customers, this would also be where auto route and select route information would show up. Currently, you can't adjust those rules that you used to have. You would need to send in a request to support, and they can update the rules for you. That will be changing in the near future, so something to keep an eye on. All right, call logs basically shows the call activity on the account. If I switch it here to this month, I'll get more information. Little green arrow to the right here means this is a call that came into the system, and I can get a little bit more details about these calls, about where they went to. The orange arrow to the left here, that means that was an outbound call. And you can say here it came from this particular device. Now, this little fire hydrant icon, if you click on this, it creates an email. It gives the technical details of the call and sends it to support@virtualpbx.com. In the body of that email, go ahead and tell us what you experienced, right? So like, this says I got a call, but my phone never rang. Or, we were talking and suddenly, the call ended and I didn't hit hang up. I had to call the customer back. They said they didn't hang up, that sort of thing, just so we have an idea of what happened. You can also download this as a CSV file. You also have a custom up here so you can change date range and then download the file as well. Feature codes, I've mentioned a couple of these, basically dial pad shortcuts from your phone. Most of these are geared towards VoIP phone use. A couple like checking voicemail, like the *987 here, you can do from a cell phone to landline, gets us to call into your main number. All right, so we've been on the dashboard here. Next up, we got ACD queues. So ACD stands for Automatic Call Distribution, call center feature. This is a more advanced version of ring groups. Now, queues start at, I believe, $15 per month, depending on your plan. I think they go up to $30, depending on other plans. There's also ACD Queues Pro, which I believe start at $99, depending on the plan. Now, adding a queue would be, you click right here, add a queue. I'm just going to click on the gear icon on an existing queue. It's the same thing here. You give the queue name. Now, a queue can have either an extension or a phone number. Can't have both, right? Ring groups can have both. Then you have queue routing strategy. There are, I think, 4 or 5 options here. 5, actually. So one, there's ring all, right? Blast ringing. So everyone gets rung at the same time. The one here is round robin, means it's going to average out or be equal over time for all the users. You also have least offered. So Bob and Mary have been in the queue. Bob's been offered 20 calls. Mary's been offered 5. Next call that comes in goes to Mary. There's least calls, which is least amount of connected calls. So in that same scenario, Bob's had 20 calls offered. Mary's had 5. Well, if Bob's only spoken to 2 people, Mary spoke to all 5 of hers. Next call that comes in, it's going to Bob. Oh, and then there's most idle. I knew I was forgetting one. Basically, who's been waiting for a call the longest gets the next call that comes in. Hold treatment, you can upload a music file, again, .wave.mp3. Now on Q's Pro, the hold treatment is much more customizable. You can include things like their expected wait time, right? Then have a music file play. Then you can have, oh, here's your position in line, right? So you're 5th in line or what have you. You have a music file play, etc. That sort of thing. Q timeout, this is how much time the inbound caller can wait on hold. The queue call limit, you can limit the number of people who can enter a queue at any time. And in the case of 0, that means there's no limit. Timeout immediately if empty. That means if you have no staff members logged in, then and an incoming call comes in, the system will treat it out as if they've timed out, right? So they hit 3,600 seconds. Escalation queue means you can say, hey, if the timeout happens or no one answered, I can send them to a secondary queue. And then the escalation call flow after timeout. So if you don't have a queue, you can say, hey, I'm going to send this to, say, a voicemail. I can scroll down to 1. And likewise, even if you have an escalation queue, if it times out in the escalation queue, it will then revert back to this email or to this escalation timeout. Right. Agent behavior, agent recovery time measured in seconds, usually like 15 to 30 seconds. Basically, after an agent has finished a call, the system has a timer on them before it will offer them a second call. Force away on rejected or missed. This is enabled. That means if the agent misses a call, the system puts them in away mode. They have to put themselves back in ready mode. And then agent connect timeout. How much time does the system try to reach the agent? Okay, 20 seconds. One thing to keep in mind about queues, currently queues can only take calls, or agents can only accept calls using a VoIP phone, right? Soft phone, physical VoIP phone, web phone, etc. Whereas in groups, you can use a cell phone or landline or a VoIP phone. If you click here on the little members icon, and then you would click on manage members, this is how you determine who can be in a queue, right? So these are all your staff members, and then these are the staff members who can be in queues. And if you click on a person, you can click on add members, and that will move them over. Likewise, you can remove people by clicking on them and click remove members. If we go back to queues, if you click on a queue, you can add agents. By clicking and dragging and clicking save changes. For your staff members, right, they would have an option here to go to queues themselves. They won't have all the creation options. That's basically for admins. But they can click on begin session. So that logs them in. And then they can mark themselves as ready. So now I'm ready to take calls. You see here, this one turned to 1. If I click on that, I can see, hey, I'm here in this queue. That's how long I've been in there. And I can see if I've missed calls or how many I've taken. The little phone icon up here shows you the devices I can use. You're going to want to select one of your VoIP devices so you can take calls properly. All right, blacklist. Blacklist is a free feature. Basically, this allows you to create a list. You click edit list, blacklist. Right, you would click either add for a new feature or click on an existing one. Give it a name. Block anonymous means you're blocking calls from inbound calls that don't have proper caller ID, right? So we're not getting the proper caller ID, so it basically shows anonymous. You can just block those calls from reaching your system. Otherwise, you can put +1 area code and phone number and add specific phone numbers to block. Right, you can just keep adding them as you need to. Click Save. Then you go back to Settings, and you make sure it's in the selected field here. Right, so normally when you create a new list, it shows up on the left under Available. You would just click and drag, then you click Update. And so now any phone numbers on these two lists, when they try to call any phone number on my system, they just get busy tone. So they can't connect. They're not wasting my time or my staff's time. Now, any admin can also get to the fax manager, right? So you can see the faxes that are coming in or the faxes that are going out. You can also see the email to fax logs, which would tell you why a fax wasn't able to get sent out. There's usually a little eyeball icon here, give you some further details. Monitor is not available. I don't think that's currently available right now, but essentially this allows you to see the status of your staff members. Right, green means they're waiting for a call. Red, they've marked away. Yellow means they're on external call. Gold means they're on recovery time, and blue means they're on an inbound call. The recording manager will take you to the recording storage, recording.virtualpbx.com, and that uses the same login as your Dash login. Reports is, I believe, still in beta. This is actually going to be a paid feature. It's an advanced version of the call logs. You can run custom reports essentially to see like, oh, who's getting calls, etc. User portal. Every user has their own user portal. So this is like if I had voicemails here, I could listen to a voicemail, I can download a voicemail, I can decide to save a voicemail or delete it. I can see the call history, basically calls I've made for the past week. I could see my fax history if I had a fax box. The contact list, this is just your Dash contacts, right? So these are other extension owners or users, your ring groups, etc. Conference, this is where your staff members would manage their conferences themselves. You can invite other Dash users into a conference. You can lock a conference. You can mute everybody. You can unmute everybody. You can end the conference. When you're actually in a conference, you can actually mute a specific participant or kick a particular participant. Here's where users can update their PIN numbers, right? So their moderator PIN and their participant PINs. And then they have some settings here, like to hear tones for when people are logging in or out. The settings and devices, this is again where users can set up their own call forwarding, so you don't have to do it for them, as well as see the status of their devices. The voicemail manager, again, any admin can get to any of the voicemail boxes on the account to see what's there. Again, they can play it back, download them, delete them, etc. And then lastly here, there's webhooks. This is if you want to make use of APIs to link Dash to other software. If you're interested in that, you're going to want to speak to our sales team. I believe that's on specific plans. They'll also have some additional resources for you. And again, you can go to developer.virtualpbx.com to see other examples that we have. Let's go back to dashboard. And so that is everything on Dash these days. Again, we're adding features all the time, which is why our trainings are getting longer. I'm going to hang out for a minute or so just to see if anyone has any questions. I haven't seen any pop up. But if I answered all your questions, then I thank you for joining me today. But yeah, as I said, otherwise I'll hang out for a minute or so to see if anyone has questions. All right, not seeing any questions, so I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. Again, thank you for your time today, and I hope you have a wonderful day.